All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Goose, Gabe, and Morgan. Film Fest Filmmaking Part 3. In this episode, we have special guest Morgan Hart. We cover topics that range from filmmaking, cinematography, creative processes, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Marianne Williamson and Nelson Mandela. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. All right, so Morgan, thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate it. We had Steve on the episode before this, 307, part 2. This is now part 3. We had both of you all on episode 152, which was back in 2019. With that being said, obviously, if you have not had the opportunity to check out episode 152 or 307, please do so. But Morgan, for those of us who do not know who you are and what you do, let us know.
Sure. I'm Morgan Hart. I'm a filmmaker in Philadelphia, based out of Philadelphia. I grew up in York, PA, which is about like a suburb, hour and a half, 2 hours away from here to the west. Born in Easton, Maryland. But for the past 8 years, I've been out here in Philadelphia after I graduated from Temple at the film school program there. And since then, I've been pursuing my passion and my career of filmmaking, as well as photography. And mostly under filmmaking, I pursued cinematography and lighting for films. And I guess you could say videography as well.
I love it. All right, so how did you get started in all of this? How did you make the decision to go to school for this, and then obviously continue your passion?
Sure. So I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I went to Temple as a freshman.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be in something creative, like something with the arts a little bit, but I knew that was going to be hard to make a career out of that, make money out of that, and like stick with that. So I guess I experimented with different classes, and filmmaking was media 101 in my freshman year. That was one that I tried filmmaking in. Like, we just had assignments to make a film, like go make a 2-minute film, 8-minute film, whatever. And I was pretty intimidated by it because like we didn't have any arts or really any like technology in my high school. Like it was kind of like a more old school type of high school.
Yeah.
So like I was really intimidated by it. Everyone seemed to kind of like know more. Like I didn't know what a hard drive was. Like it was just really scary. But as soon as I made my first film, I just kind of fell in love with it. I was like, I could just do this. Like I love it. So if this could be like my whole career, my whole passion, that would be awesome. And so I just kind of went with that.
So explain for the listeners that this all may be new terminology for them. What's the difference between videography and cinematography?
Sure, yeah. So I would call cinematography more of like an art, and like I would consider yourself more of a cinematographer when you're going into a project where there's a lot of pre-planning. There's more of a cinematic feel to the project, and it's more of like a movie, and there's more of a story to it. And then videography, I would be like shooting an event, shooting something where there's not really like, of course there's pre-production for any type of camera shooting, video, photography, video, all of it. But it's like with events, when I go to shoot events of videography, like I'm just going in and I plan on capturing like moments and B-roll and people like things like that. And then like cinematography, like that can go really deep. Like that could be, you could be doing a storyboard, so drawing out every single frame that you're going to have. You could focus on, that also focuses on the lighting, which is something that I'm really passionate about, and that I really think is important in cinematography, and a big difference between that for videography and cinematography is like the planning of lighting and all that. Because for cinematography, you could be planning out lighting ahead of time, really like complex lighting situations going on and stuff like that. You could be doing a 3D model of your shots on your computer under cinematography, which you would obviously not be doing like under videography. So yeah, like it's just a lot more complicated. It takes a lot more of pre-thought, and it's more of an art that I would say, maybe pretentiously over videography, because it's just kind of like you're showing up and you're using your craftsmanship and the art that you've learned, but it's like you're not putting it in such of an art package, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So before we get into lighting, I've asked this to most guests who come from the creative side of things, and including my brother, who's a barber, who has kind of like the same thought process, and we laugh all the time. So we could be watching a movie, sports, whatever, and he's a barber, so my brother's commenting on their haircuts or something like that. It's just funny because that's what he notices, because that's what he does. Right?
Yeah.
When you watch films or even just your basic TV or anything, like, are you critiquing it at all times? Do you ever just sit back and enjoy what it is, or can you never go back to that childlike thing? I don't even know if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it definitely gets harder as you do it more. And like I was literally just watching football last night, and I was like just paying attention to the camera work of it all. Like it was hard to watch the game and enjoy the game because I'm watching like, oh, they're zooming in here at these times, like they have this angle at this angle and whatnot. So yeah, it can get really hard, but I think like there's still great TV and movies out there where you can just completely get lost in the story still. Like it's definitely possible to like go back to that just enjoyment, childlike pleasure of watching something. But I mean a lot of when I watch like Better Call Saul and stuff, like I am really trying to pick up things that whole time and kind of study it while I enjoy it too. So yeah, you can kind of turn it off and on, and sometimes you can't. Like it is kind of just part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there someone in the industry or a group of people that you follow, that you look up to, that you try to emulate, or is it just kind of you grab little pieces from, each creative and kind of make your own thing? Like people who are into sports, right? They may have their favorite team or their favorite athlete. Is that the same in your industry?
Sure. I mean, I would say not as much as sports. Like,
well, yeah, sports is kind of like an extreme, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess because, like, yeah, there's just more famous names and stuff in sports. There's not as well known cinematographers. I guess there is for directors for sure. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot of directors that look up to people. I, as a cinematographer, look up to like one of the most cliche famous names in my industry, which is Roger Deakins, who is the director of photography / cinematographer for like major movies, including Blade Runner 1917 and No Country for Old Men. Just like a lot of really big name movies, and like what he does is awesome. I mean, just like a really cool dude too. So he's definitely someone that I look up to in the industry. Of course, there's directors that have vision that I really look up to. Like Steve probably mentioned him, and we use this as a big inspiration for No Good Deed, which was I'm forgetting his name right now. I'm blanking on it, but he's the director of Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Favorite. I'm blanking on his name right now, but yes, there's definitely directors that I look up to because of their vision. And besides that, then definitely the people around me that I work with, I've been inspired by a lot of them and learned from a lot of them from college. A lot of college, friends that I haven't talked to in a long time, but like they're doing their thing, and like it's really inspiring, and like I learned a lot from them. And still, there's a lot of people that I work with that I'm really inspired by, that are just like have been in it longer, or just, I can learn things from them and they could learn things from me. So there's a lot of like give and take between people. Like Hugh Tran is one of them. He's a gaffer that I work with a lot, and I help him with lighting films a lot of the time. So I really learned from him just by like working with him. And there's a lot of other names too. It'd be pretty hard to name them all, but I really respect and appreciate a lot of the people that I work with and have worked with.
Nice. Yeah. So go ahead, Goose.
No, I was gonna say, Morgan, with like Jim said, me being a barber, I follow like social media. I follow all these like famous barbers. I follow average barbers. I follow everyone. Mm-hmm. And as I watch them, I learn stuff like little techniques. They post videos of them actually cutting hair. I follow like their little techniques. But like recently, like in the barber industry, we're taking pictures of our product. Now they're doing videos and stuff. Mm-hmm. So like there are some of these barbers going behind the scenes and showing like angles and different things, like how to take a picture, how to make a video for your social media platform to make it better, whatever. Is there like in your world, is there like in social media, is there like people doing that? Like, oh, these are angles you should take, or these are the products you should use, different cameras, different whatever. Is there like, do you guys have a huge following of that?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely like Instagram pages that I follow where it's like, these are great techniques and stuff. But I think at some point, like, I mean, they do help and they're nice to just inspire you a little bit. But like, I think the inspiration, the deepest inspiration for it all is like within the movies and the TV shows itself. If we're talking about cinematography, like because if you're watching like Better Call Saul, just because I'm watching that right now. Like that is the inspiration. Like you're seeing like these different angles and point of views and creative ideas that you can't really like, you can only kind of learn from just like watching and enjoying a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely like techniques and like, there's a lot of YouTubers that I follow that like have helped get better and stuff like that. If that answers your question.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's social media platform all around.
And regarding like social media, I mean, I think like again, I do consider myself a cinematographer, videographer, and just like video guy, like behind the camera. So it kind of does all blend together a lot of the ways. So like if it's for like a commercial, you're kind of that's pretty much a cinematographer, but like you're like blending a lot of the techniques between any type of camera skill work. It's kind of hard to explain.
No, I get, because I've been cutting hair for like 20 plus years, and I watch someone, I'm like, oh dang, I didn't know, like, dude, the slightest little technique that someone does and I capture that no one even pays attention to, they can't even tell, but like being that my craft and I know it, like I capture it, I'm like, holy smokes, I'm gonna use that next time I cut hair. Like just a small like little thing.
I totally agree. It's the same with film. Like you can learn anything from anyone, because everyone's coming from different areas, and just the technique of filmmaking and whatever little umbrella other subsection of that, you're learning different skills and techniques that like you can share and implement. So it's pretty cool how that works.
So let's talk a little bit about creative processes. Is there anything you do now that you didn't do when you first started out, or maybe when you were in school, to get the creative juices flowing? Is it a similar process, the same process? And then also explain maybe the difference between being creative for yourself and then being creative for a project that already has a vision. I don't know if that makes sense. So almost like a project you're going to do on your own, like a solo thing, or it might be the same thing. I'm not even sure what your process is. So go through your creative process. Is there certain things that you do, you look for to get inspiration? Are you watching old films or things like that, or some of the guys you look up to, and then read some of the storyline of what you're trying to create? And is it different trying to create something for someone else, if that makes sense?
Sure. So I guess starting from the back of your question, I don't make much for myself these days. The only thing that I really do creatively for myself is actually photography, because I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. Like I do a lot of it. It comes natural because I'll just be out, and see something I want to take pictures of. And I don't like video editing that much, so I just like photos.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely just take all of everything that they said and think about it, and I guess it's definitely a lot of like film watching, watching films that to my mind are giving me the same feel and energy and all that, and rewatching them or watching them for the first time. I have a huge collection of films like behind me that I just kind of have as like a library kind of to get inspiration from. I have like VHSs and DVDs and Blu-rays and all of it, and then plus add on like Netflix and all that and stuff, because I like to have that as like a reference or something to fall back on and get creative ideas from. So there's definitely that, and that could be used for like music videos or short films or feature films. And then besides that, I'd say like one of the main things is I like to think about it in my head and like meditate on it and meditate on creative ideas. And like I really don't like getting like scripts like the day before or like not seeing the location of where I'm shooting in, because I like to see it and then like go home and think about it and like think like, oh, well, how's the best way that I want to make this come across? How do I want this to feel for the viewer? What are we trying to accomplish with it? And so to do that, I just kind of like sit and think. Like a lot of times, like before I go to bed and go to sleep, I just meditate on it. So that's a big part of my creative process. And besides those two things, communication with the creative director, and as well as the team, whether that's the lighting crew, the props and the set decoration and the director and all that. So it's like communication. I would really like to add something to my pre-production planning now, which is basically like 3D modeling of sets. And the problem is I have an iMac and it's not the best with those softwares. I'm trying to figure out. I tried like just like modifying my iMac to make it work, and it still didn't work after a ton of work. So yeah, so I might need to get a new computer, make a PC or something about that, because I really do want to add that to my process. I think that it could, it kind of feels like that could be where the future is going. Like if someone just sends me a picture of a scene of a location, and then I map that out online, and then I say, here's like the lighting that we would make, so here's the look. I don't know, it just seems like it'd work really well. But I guess the old school way of doing that is storyboarding, which is by drawing out the scene and making it come to life on paper through illustrations. But I'm not a very good drawer, so it's kind of hard to do that. Yeah. So I'd say those are a lot of the steps in the process of my creative process.
That's awesome, man. So explain a little bit about equipment. I know this is something, and for you, maybe even more specific when it comes to lighting. Gabe and I did a very, very, very short production, and we hired a guy. It was like for a 3 to 4 minute video, so it was nothing wild. But I clear as day remember how it almost seemed obsessed he was with lighting. I mean, this guy, he told we shot some of the film outside my residence, right? And we were all out there. And meanwhile, I'm setting this up with the extras are like my brother here, Gabe, like it's all family, like they got things to do. They're not getting paid. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, hey guys, can you meet at my house around, maybe noon or whatever. I took off from work. This was like, it was more of a promotional thing. But anyway, so we waited. We were out front. I just remember being out front and just talking. And like a half hour, 45 minutes passed. I'm like, this dude has not picked up a camera. And all of a sudden, I'm like, dude, when are we shooting this? I'm starting to get hungry. He's like, oh, we're waiting for the sun to go down a little bit. Dude, we're out front for like 2 hours. And it was that particular. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, me coming as an amateur, zero background with any of this, my appreciation at that time for it was like, really, dude?
Yeah.
But thinking back on it, reflecting back on it, is almost like you have like this I have this grand appreciation for someone that, one, took their craft so seriously. Two, I don't even know if he was a perfectionist. He might have been. I wasn't around him enough to know that. But it was kind of neat at the same time to see like this. I'm now in his world, right? So now, yes, we hired this guy, but now we also are following his direction. And it threw me off a little bit because I've never done that before. So I wasn't expecting someone to tell me to wait for 2 hours just so the sun can go down.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to nail this out in about an hour and a half. Again, very naive, coming with zero background. But anyway, what are your thoughts on all that? And you probably can appreciate his having us wait around for the sun.
I can actually. Yes, I do appreciate a good golden hour time of shooting. It definitely adds to any production. It's true. Like if you wait for the sun to go down that hour before it goes down, that lighting that's what you need. Yep. To make it look good. Like if you're using outdoor daylight, like, and you're just using the hard sun against the pavement and everything, it's just it could look good sometimes, but it can be worth waiting for the golden hour. So I definitely understand that. And there's definitely some people that probably would have just went ahead and shot it. And maybe that was like something that, I don't know, maybe should have been communicated before, but I also don't even want to say that. I don't know the full background of the whole production and everything. But I do appreciate that for sure. And I can, I don't know, there's some people that would show up and just shoot it, but it might not look as good at the end of the day because you didn't wait for the good lighting and everything. So it was probably worth it in the end. I don't know. Was it? You think?
The product was, it's like our number one project we've done, and everyone talks about it's just so well put together. It was, but that's what I'm saying. We had no idea. So some of it was shot all over the place. Actually, a portion of it was shot in my brother's barber shop. So there was indoor scenes. So when we were doing the indoor scenes, except for Goose, the barbershop was one thing. He kept playing with the damn blinds. I'm like, oh my God, here he goes with the lighting again. And he just kept turning the blinds and twisting it. So it was like, like it shuttered off.
Yeah.
When we were here at my house, though, inside, he had all this lighting. So he was in control of what looked like what. So I guess I didn't really notice it as much. I noticed he had a ton of equipment, a ton of lighting, and it was hot because of the lighting, whatever. And we're just trying to get through it. But he was able to, I guess, manipulate the lighting. When it came to something outside, there's only so much you can do. I'm sure you can throw up like this big old banner to block some sunlight or something. But the shot I think he was going for, and then in my brother's barbershop, one whole side wall of the building is basically all glass. So there's a ton of sunlight. And he just kept fidgeting with the dang blinds. I'm like, oh my God, here we go again.
It matters, yeah.
And it does. And
it matters.
Listen,
yeah, a little
no one said anything because he was so like you couldn't even tell him anything anyway. He was so zoned in. He knew exactly what he wanted.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like me, yeah.
And if you don't know that, and to your point, so communication is a huge thing. Again, he was working with, total amateur. So if we were to go through that process again, I think I would appreciate it more. But to your point about communication, that is a thing, right? It's like, maybe you should, he knew this was our first, rodeo. And so it was like, it wasn't explained, But then I guess after 2 hours or so working with this guy, you're like, all right, this is just how he rolls. And then we just went with it. And I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, I'm not going to interrupt anything. Clearly he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah.
Yeah. Just any production that's going to turn out decent. Like lighting is its own, it's going to take its own time. Every part of a production has many different elements to it, like literally like makeup and the props and the set design and setting up the background and then that's not even the camera. Like all of those things isn't even setting up the shot yet and making sure the exposure is right and looking how you want to frame it and everything. So any good production is going to take a lot of time before that. But I mean, it's probably what you're missing in that situation is like producer, you know, someone to keep track of like the time and being like, you guys don't have to show up yet because the filmmaker's going to be here for 3 hours trying to set up the lighting and prepare all that. Come at this time because it's probably going to be more ready. You guys don't just have to sit around, you know, and just keep thinking it's going to be 15 minutes later when it's not, you know. So yeah, it's a time consuming process and it's also a balance. Like a lot of films, I'm trying to improve on my speed of setting up stuff like that because I could definitely work on that because I do probably consider myself a perfectionist. And it's hard because like if I'm shooting something, I want every shot to be just as good as it could be. And which is not always fast. Like that's not always easy and that takes a lot of time. Like there's a lot of detail that goes into it. And the only way to help with that is with like other crew members and people that know what they're doing as well. Because like I worked with a director on a recent film. It was a vampire film and the DP, like I was learning a lot from her and just the details of lighting that she knew how to add into a scene was really cool. And like, that wouldn't have been possible if that was just her, with the time that we were given. Like if we needed to like dim down a part of a wall, like that takes a lot of time to set up a piece of equipment to make this little square on a wall darker. Because if it's not darker, then that's going to be distracting for your eye. It's not going to pull your attention to the subject and the subject of the story. You're going to be just a little bit distracted, which you won't even notice by watching it, but like your subconscious will be distracted by like these little things in the background that weren't paid attention to. So it's definitely like this balance between having the crew that you have and the team that you have and the time that you have to do it and just your skills at it. Like, so yeah.
So we were talking. Go ahead, Goose.
No, I was gonna say. So Morgan, I was on my barbershop was featured on like a show, and dude, what you were saying, the coordination with like the camera crew, the sound people, like they're all different. Like everyone has like their own specific jobs, and I was just sitting down and getting interviewed, but to see the coordination behind me, as far there was people that did their own lighting, like everyone had their own specific job. Mm-hmm. So it's like obviously they were a team put together and they kind of coordinate well. But like I'm watching, like this one person that their job was just lighting, another person their job was just the sound, another person was like the taking the video, and then you had like the actual producer, which was like he was like kind of pointing direction. Everyone had to be in sync with what his vision was, which is definitely isn't easy. So like it definitely is like a whole like team within coordination and like can make that little. And like I remember just having like we did a recording in the barbershop, and I just remember watching that piece. We sat there for like 2 hours, and it was only like less than like a 5-minute clip, and it took that long just to get everything in sync, just for like that 5-minute clip.
Mm-hmm. And that was a whole interview, right? So they're showing most of the same shot for most of it, probably, right?
Yeah. And it was like getting everything right, like the lighting, the make sure the sound was on point, make sure there was no interruptions, and yeah.
So then, like, think about like how a production, like a movie,
I know.
In 5 minutes, there's like 20 different shots there.
Yeah.
So like all the different lighting changes and sound change, all of it, like all the different changes, like that is why movies take, you know, years to make and stuff. So
yeah. After being at that, I appreciate what goes on. Like now you see the background stuff because most people see TV. Like you watch the news or like Sports Center, you see these analysts. They're sitting there, they're talking. But behind the scenes, to make all that thing go and make it like what we see look smooth and everyone's like looking beautiful. As far as even makeup, we had like these 3D makeup stuff, like so our face wouldn't shine. And the dude, it's like the little tedious things like you don't really pay attention to on a daily that like makes that, like I said, that 5-10 minute like
right.
look perfect.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Yeah.
So when we had Steve on last week, and so we're talking, obviously the biggest thing was promoting No Good Deed, and one of the conversations was how sound and lighting can set the tone and actually invoke emotion, specific emotions. And we were talking about some of the opening scenes was dark. And so you're catching a specific, so the lighting was extremely important it was its own message. I don't even know how to describe it. It took on its own life outside of the storyline, and it was just like that added so much to the film. So can you explain, like, was that what you were going for, or did it just work out that way? That's obviously, it was intentional. But can you explain a little bit about that process on this project?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going into it with a lot of like pre-planning, and a lot of like thinking ahead of how I want it to look and everything, and like what lights I would need to accomplish that, and you know what colors I want to bring out, and you're working that out with the camera that you have and available, and the settings for that and everything. And so a lot of the times you're going in with an intention, and you know, of course you want it to come out as you're thinking in your head. But a lot of the times, like with any film, like it's very rare where it comes out as you like originally think. Like it just it almost never is. Like which is fine. Like that's a good thing, I think, because like that's just how it is. Like that's when you're at the location, and it's gonna come to life in its own way, in a different way that you originally thought of, in its own unique way. And so like the lighting is very intentional. I mean, we definitely wanted it to be dark because of the story matter, and I played with guess like it was actually very minimalistic lighting setups in a lot of sense. We wanted it to be more I guess like, I don't know what the word would be. I want to say earthy, but
it had like amber like tones to it, where it was, which again, that's why I felt like it invoked some emotion too, because that could have been a very bright, like what I'm staring at, one of these circle things, or my cell phone is sitting on, which is this huge bright light like blasting me in the face. It's very different where if it was like an amber tone, the color, right? It's just a color. It sets that mood.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Colors is its own thing for sure. I played with color with like the white balance on one of the scenes where we made it was like it's very moody, I guess too, like kind of grungy a little bit. So we used like maybe like one like bright light, but we put some color into it, whether that was like blue or orange, and the blue one for one of the scenes is changed the white balance on the camera to make the white light blue, and it just really looked cool. And it's like I don't know, just a unique way to to just change the color on a lighting, and it's not even that unique. People have definitely done that, but a lot of times it doesn't work. I think in this sense it might have. And then for another scene, then we used like just like one light to beam in, like tungsten light, to make it moodier. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
that's all right. Yeah. So I mean, you tell us what was your favorite part about this project? Is this your second project with Steve? In total, like obviously we know you did the other one with Steve, but have you guys worked on anything else outside of these two films? One, and then explain after that. Maybe explain what was your favorite part about the whole process.
Okay. Yes, we have worked on 2 films now. So it was No Plow Stops. That is our first one. That was like a 2-minute film. And then we did No Good Deed, I guess not too long after. And I have to say, like, just Steve as a director and the project as a whole, and our relationship and our collaboration between these 2 projects, like it really felt like night and day, and the improvement of these projects and how they turned out at the end of the day. And besides that, we were working on another one called Colors of the Mind, which was one that I guess just didn't happen. Like it was like kind of one of those victims to COVID and those times. But yeah, so that's 2 projects that we did. He keeps hinting towards a third one called Canoe, that he's very excited about. So I'm excited about it too. I can't wait to read the screenplay, because No Good Deed was a great screenplay, which is why it attracted to me, or why I was attracted to it. It reminded me of a film called First Reformed. It's an A24 film. I definitely recommend it. It's just really cool, and it reminded me of that vibe a little bit. So that was one of my main inspirations going into it, and something that I was like trying to copy in a sense. And I'm not afraid of saying that, because like when you try to copy something, as I said earlier, like it always comes into something else. Like it's,
yeah,
you can't ever make it what you can, but it's really hard to like make something as you intended, and you just kind of let it grow into whatever you want it, whatever it is, whatever it's going to be. Like, so yeah, so we worked on, I guess he's writing Canoe right now. And then what was the other question? Sorry.
And then what was your favorite part about this process, this go round versus the last one? Now, and we did preface the audience to say that the previous one was kind of you're on a very strict time constraint, putting it all together. Not gonna say you slapped it together, but you had to put it together in a very short period. So there is, we did mention that in the previous show, that the production, everything's there's a grand improvement. But what was your favorite part with No Good Deed? Like with the process, I should say.
I liked my favorite part about it.
Or at least one of your favorite parts.
Well, I really like that Steve, I mean, I guess there's a lot, but I guess I really like that Steve like let me kind of go creatively. Like he let me be free with like, but he definitely also had a say in all of it, and like his own opinions throughout it, so which I also appreciate a lot. Like I really do like the collaboration effort of it all, and but I really appreciate when like the director kind of not only like lets me be free, but like encourages me. Like they're like, yeah, like, you know, come up, be passionate here, come up with something. You know, you do your best, like, and to do that, a lot of the times it takes a lot of time, and pre-planning and stuff, and that's like hard to hard to do when you're stripped down by like the budget or the producer or the creator like wanting to get it done in a short amount of time, which happens a lot of times. Like, and there's a reason for that, which is because everyone's busy and everyone has other responsibilities and other projects they want to get on that they want to do. So it's hard to spread out a project so far. But it's also really hard to get a project done in like 2 weeks, like a whole movie or something in 2 weeks. Like it's hard to, it's just going to be what it can be like, and it's going to be limited kind of by its time for that, because you're going to be racing to get shots done and stuff like that. And so for No Good Deed, we spent like forever on it, years of like production and stuff, and that's a lot because like we're just rookie filmmakers like out here, like just graduated from college and like no budget, indie, like no name, all that type of stuff. So like we got to do what we got to do to get it done and make it right, make it good the right way, like make it what it should be, make it what it is. Yeah, so I really appreciate that about the project and his direction of it. Yeah.
So when we talked to Steve, he already had planned out. He had mentioned, he wanted to obviously enter it into these film fest, where you guys can accumulate. Hopefully, the goal was to, and you obviously executed, was to collect laurels and then have those on the opening, scene to kind of start, showing some level of credibility before the viewer kind of takes it all in. Explain a little bit about what you want maybe someone in your industry to take out of your contributions, I guess. When I do something, in my area of profession, is when I do something like project based, I know when I'm putting something together, I'm hoping that maybe some of the guys that I look up to can appreciate, or I know they're going to appreciate it, even if they don't say anything to me, because they know what it takes to put something like that together. It's almost like just getting the respect. It's not, you don't even have to say anything to me. Like, I know they're going to appreciate this.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like some of the stuff you want to get out of it? So as you're saying, you guys are still technically just still getting started, and to collect, I think it was like 17 or 18 laurels along the way is pretty damn impressive. So obviously the goal was met, and then you can kind of move forward. But the question's kind of all over the place, so you just take it wherever you want.
I think I got it. I guess it's hard to say what I wanted anyone to take out of this. I just wanted to, I really, like I said, I really liked the screenplay. And I thought that we could just make something of it. It definitely turned into a different direction than I thought at the end of it. I'm probably the biggest critic of this project.
Yeah.
I think out there, but I'm also somewhat proud of it and what we accomplished and everything, and there seems to be definitely some love for it with the festivals and how it's done and everything. So I don't really know, I guess, what I want people to take out of it, but I mean, it is art, and we did put our all into it. I mean, maybe that's pretentious to say that it's art, but like, it's definitely just not like a lighthearted film, it's not like a just a feel good story or something. I don't even know how to explain it or very well. I guess I just want people to feel what it is, feel how they feel out of it, and I don't know, like it's just I don't know. I hope that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You were talking, and it made me think of it's almost like the difference between you know, when you submit something because it's a school project versus when you submit something because it's your passion or it's something that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you could feel the difference when you're doing it too, right?
Yeah.
And so you definitely get out there. But I think Steve was telling us you won an award through this too, right?
Yeah, Steve was kind enough to enter me on my behalf for the award. So that was really cool of him. I don't think I ever would have done that on my own, but it's nice to have and put that on my resume, you know, when I need it down the road.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So what was it? What was the actual award?
I think it was just best cinematography for the month of May from the Las Vegas Film Festival. And so, yeah, so we looked up the other films and they were really cool too. So that was a good feeling. It was nice. I've never had that before. So yeah.
That's cool. Does that apply pressure to you? Does that encourage you? Does that, like, obviously it's a dope feeling, like, dude, I got recognized for, you know, but do you feel that that's like a booster, right? Like, I mean, that should encourage you to
It does,
keep
yeah.
going, right?
It absolutely does. It definitely encourages me. You know, and even just the awards that the film has gotten and everything, it's all very encouraging. Yeah, I mean, it just is. It's not really much pressure. It kind of takes pressure off of me in a lot of ways because it feels like what I did was somehow good. Like some people enjoyed it out there, and it, I don't know, like, yeah.
Yeah. So for Steve to put you in that means I feel like he was like, I came confident on what he wrote on paper and for you to make it visual. You know what I mean? Like and then you put what's visual and him approve of it. You know what I mean? Like he probably has something else in his mind where he's writing this stuff and has a different vision. And for you
Yeah.
to put it in life or whatever, or used to put it in life, it's like he approved of it. He loved it even more or whatever the case may be. And for him to put you in that, like, yo, I think he did a good ass job. Let me put him in this category. Maybe you might win an award. Because in his mind, you did, like, you probably exceeded his expectation.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's hard. Like I said, I think it's like it's an amazing job of like someone writing something and then you bring it to life. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's two different visions. So like for it to come
it's
together,
definitely not just me either.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot of, like we were saying, like the whole team behind the project. Like there's a lot of other people that were on this that helped out a ton, including the editor. Steve also submitted Sid Miller, our editor, for an award, and he also won. So like that's awesome. So like we just had really talented people across the board on this that really like tried and put in their all, and I think that's something that a lot of us, at least filmmakers that I know, like have in common, and that's like we're really going to try with this. And it helps a lot when you have a director like Steve that is very passionate about it, and that wants to make the best product possible. And by product I mean like a piece of art, like something meaningful. Not that product, whatever. So yes, like even like the colors, like the coloring of the image, it was a big deal. And that's something I don't know how to color my own footage, which is like, I should probably learn that one day, but as of right now, I don't really know how to do that. So I know that there's people out there that are definitely better than me at that, that know what they're doing. And so we passed it off to a colorist, his name's Kevin, and he did a great job with it. Improved my image a lot, you know? And a lot of these images as well were like really inspired by Steve. Like, you know, he had the vision with it as well. Like he had the location for like the opening shot where we're just in the field. Like he had the image of just putting him in the field, looking at the camera, without a shirt on, right at us. And then from there, then I take it and I'm like, okay, I like this angle of the forest, and putting him on this part of the frame, and we're gonna zoom in here. Or I think he came in with the zoom in, So it's a very collaborative effort across the board. Yeah. And then we also I have to shout out Angelo, who helped us with that shot as well. He provided a lot of the equipment and helped as my assistant camera, my AC, and was just awesome as my AC. So yeah, I just got to shout those people out. So also had other ACs, Kyle Watchering and Melissa Farah for one of them, and I'm sure I had some more. Mike Hansen as my gaffer for some of them, Hugh Tran for as my gaffer, and yeah, so just got to get those names out, support him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was something we told Steve last week, where the credits were obviously way longer than the first film. And it's amazing when you see it. In all seriousness, it is amazing when you see it, because you're like, oh my gosh, this many people. It took this many people. This many people are involved.
Mm-hmm.
Where on top of it, it was like you felt like it was needed to have such a quality product, mm-hmm. right? Because as we were saying before, you really, when you're doing a project to hand into school, it's like you want to do your best, but to your point with the budget and time constraint, you're limited to what you can do anyway, and you're not going to have the 50 people or 100 people that you had their hands or minds touch this project. Mm-hmm. It's a very different feeling, and everyone knows it. And the other difference with the school project versus your own is that it's not forced, whereas school it is, or you're forced to work with someone who maybe is not holding their weight, or just has a totally contradictory vision, I guess, to what you're trying to do. Whereas when it is your own, or you're creating it because it's through love, not through like a force to get a grade.
Exactly.
There's a big difference, and I think everyone to some level can, I guess, relate to that.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that still happens too in film as well. Like any projects, there's definitely going to be creative differences between there's a lot of people on the project, so, and a lot of egos as well on a lot of these things. I think we as a team that we're really good at that, at like keeping the ego just all the way down, just like letting everyone do their thing, listening to ideas, and being really like open to different things from across the board with everyone. So I think that was a contribution to the success, because like a lot of projects fail because of that. And I'm talking about more bigger projects, like lower indie ones aren't as, don't fall victim to that as much, but yeah.
So obviously, to everyone listening out there, the No Good Deed is out by the time you listen to this, for sure. So check it out. But Morgan, I want to ask you, you guys were talking about No Good Deed back when you were on in episode 152, because it was in my meeting notes, or my show notes, and I remember seeing it then. I'm like, wow, this is like a long time coming type of thing.
Yeah.
What is there anything? And you mentioned, and Steve mentioned, writing his next piece of work. Is there anything that you're looking to improve for yourself? Taking on this next project, is there some things you think you could have done better, or maybe there's like someone out there listening who's trying to get into, or maybe in the middle of a process like you were? Maybe some words of encouragement, or maybe something that you're like, I know I got to change this, or I know I'm going to improve on this next time.
It's a lot to think about there. I guess specifically for Steve and I's next project, it's just seems like his next project is a more ambitious project, like where we're gonna have to travel for it. So that's just with a more ambitious, bigger project, everyone's gonna have to like up their game a little bit with that. Yeah. I'm just gonna have to do better, like across the board. I'm gonna have to pre-plan a lot more and come up with more complex lighting situations, and probably have a better camera and try to learn that and come up with like better lens situations, because I mean, No Good Deed was a struggle. We had 5 different cameras throughout it. I mean, and that's not fun, and that's not how it should be. Like, that's not how it should be shot. So I think that's one of them. Besides that, I don't know. What's up, Steve?
That's awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's everything's like like a work in progress, right? I mean, you hope that, you know, one film you improve upon, you know, every project. Sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. It just might be little tiny small little practices or daily habits that you're now applying, because obviously, hopefully, we're growing each day in a positive way. So it's just applying those little lessons when you're going through the process. Excuse, were you going to say something?
100%.
No. I just saw Steve pop up on here.
Oh.
I'm just.
Is he
I'm
on?
here for more. I'm here for more support for Morgan.
I love it. So we're actually closing out, Steve. So it was perfect timing that you joined us. Is there, or Morgan, is there anything, a topic that you wanted to hit upon that we didn't get to, or maybe something you wanted to say before we close out?
I guess just to your last point, I do agree that that's like a big thing for, you said, like, if there's any advice to anybody out there as well, I guess for like other filmmakers and creatives and all that, I really do think I really do live by like the long game and being like the turtle in the race of life. of like every day getting a little bit better, learning a little bit of something. So like over time that accumulates, and that's how it is with like my equipment too, like my collection of equipment. Like, yeah, I don't have all this equipment starting out the gate. Like, it's
right.
Every SD card, every lens, every hard drive, every just piece of equipment, tripod, monopod, all that stuff. That's like, I don't know, every month or something, I might add a little bit to my collection. And then that, for like independent projects where I'm being hired, like, then I have that in my arsenal. Like, I just went out and bought tons of like light bulbs, which is big for lighting, because like that's like really underrated way to improve your lighting is just by the light bulbs that you have in your house. And like, so I got like smart bulbs and stuff like that. And so like that's just an accumulation. And parallel with the equipment is like your knowledge and your skills and your craft of using that as a cinematographer or as a gaffer, a lighter. And so yeah, I just think that's important. It's just like every day getting a little bit better. And I heard that that's what the best filmmakers did too. Is every day they learn a little bit. So that's what I try to do. Like, I have books that I pick up, YouTube channels about equipment or about the filmmaking process, and then of course watching and learning from literally movies, watching Netflix and classics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Love it, man. Well said. I love it. So when you guys listen to this, you'll have episode 307, you'll have episode 308 in the bag, and make sure you check out No Good Deed. Steve, is there anything you wanted to add to the conversation? We asked Morgan similar questions. We kind of drove a little bit deeper into his creative processes, but anything you would like to add to the conversation when it comes to No Good Deed, or anything overall?
You know what? I do actually. I've never expressed my appreciation towards Morgan and what Morgan has meant to my creative journey thus far. I feel like I've gotten lucky with being introduced to Morgan. We got along super quickly. It was so easy bouncing ideas off of each other. I feel like we perform under that same realm of creativity. Like, we have our own little niches that we complements one another. And it's been such a joy to watch Morgan grow, watching his equipment grow, his ideas grow. It's been I've been a big fan of Morgan, and it's been It's been a blessing having such a talented cinematographer by my side. And I promise it, I've kept my word at Morgan ever since the beginning when I told him No Good Deed was going to do this. So Morgan and I, we're just getting started, and yeah, Morgan is extremely talented. So I probably wouldn't be nothing without Morgan. So thank you.
Nice.
That's well said, man. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. All right, so thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to wrap this bad boy up with quotes, and the first one is by Nelson Mandela. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated and passionate about what they do. And the second one by Marianne Williamson. The key to abundance is meeting limited circumstances with unlimited thoughts. All right, so there you go. Morgan, thank you for joining us. Steve, thank you for joining us. Demba Films, everybody. Check it out. No Good Deed. We appreciate you guys. Take care. See you guys. Gabe and Goose, thank you too.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.